The Silent Scream. Hello friends, welcome to the Horror Ghost Stories. The story begins. On the outskirts of a quiet town, hidden by dense woods and persistent fog, lies Black Ridge Manor, an abandoned estate with a dark history. For decades, the locals have avoided it, whispering about the screams that sometimes echo from its direction in the dead of night. No one ever claims to have heard them up close. Most who dared to get near the property never returned. Kara, a paranormal enthusiast with a growing online channel, convinces her friends Mike, Ethan, and Lucy to join her on an overnight investigation. Mike is eager for the thrill, Ethan is there for support, and Lucy, ever the skeptic, comes along to prove there's nothing to fear. Armed with cameras, flashlights, and a voice recorder, the group enters the decrepit manor just as the sun sets. The house greets them with eerie silence, the air heavy and stale. Dust blankets the broken furniture, and cobwebs hang like curtains. Kara films everything, narrating as they explore. The group finds old photographs scattered on the floor, faded images of a family long gone. One photo stands out, a young girl with hollow eyes and no mouth drawn where her lips should be. As they move deeper into the manor, strange sounds begin to echo, faint whispers and distant footsteps. Lucy dismisses them as the creaks of an old house, but the others grow uneasy. When a soft, childlike sobbing drifts from upstairs, even Lucy falters. Reluctantly, they follow the sound to a nursery filled with broken toys and tattered curtains. On the wall, they find crude drawings scratched into the plaster, scenes of a girl screaming, her mouth absent in every depiction. Suddenly, the sobbing stops, replaced by a low hum. A wooden chest in the corner bursts open, revealing an old phonograph and several records. Kara, intrigued, sets up the phonograph and plays the first record. The needle scratches, and a piercing scream fills the room. It's loud, agonizing, and seemingly endless. The group covers their ears, but the sound seems to seep into their minds, growing louder and more unbearable until it abruptly stops. The record spins silently. The door slams shut, and the room plunges into darkness. Ethan's flashlight flickers, illuminating fleeting shapes on the walls, ghostly figures with distorted faces frozen in silent terror. A girl's shadow emerges among them, pointing toward the phonograph. Lucy spots a diary inside the chest. The name Annabelle Grace is scrawled on the cover. Reading by flashlight, they piece together her tragic story. Annabelle had been a mute child, tormented by her cruel guardian who sought to punish her silence. One fateful night, he locked her in a soundproof room, leaving her to die unheard. Her diary ends abruptly, but the house seems to continue her story. The group decides to leave, but the manor shifts around them. Hallways elongate, and doors open to unfamiliar rooms. Whispers turn to cries, then screams, surrounding them. Each begins to feel Annabelle's presence differently. Kara sees her reflection in every window, Mike hears her scream in his own voice, Lucy feels invisible hands clutching her throat, and Ethan sees shadowy figures dragging him into the walls. Desperation drives them to the basement, where the whispers are loudest. The room is filled with more drawings, each more grotesque than the last. The phonograph sits at the center, another record waiting. They realize they must recreate the events of Annabelle's death to set her spirit free. When they play the final record, the manor trembles. Shadows come alive, replaying the night Annabelle died. They see her locked away, clawing at the walls, her voiceless screams tearing through the fabric of the house. The group tries to intervene, but the room closes in on them. Ethan, paralyzed with fear, is consumed by the darkness. Kara, with tears streaming down her face, pleads with Annabelle, promising to tell her story to the world. The shadows pause, and the girl's ghost appears, her hollow eyes locking onto Kara slowly. She fades into the darkness, and the house releases them. As they emerge into the cool night air, the manor collapses behind them, reduced to rubble. Kara checks her camera, relieved it survived the ordeal. But as they drive away, the camera captures a chilling moment: Annabelle's reflection in the car window, her silent scream frozen in time. On the edge of town, shrouded in fog and the shadows of ancient oaks, Black Ridge Manor stands like a sentinel of despair. The house has been abandoned for nearly a century, its history buried beneath layers of superstition. Locals speak in hushed tones of screams that cut through the night air, too distant to trace but too chilling to ignore. The manor's notoriety has kept even the boldest explorers away. Kara, an ambitious YouTuber with a growing paranormal investigation channel, sees Black Ridge as her chance to go viral. She recruits her friends Mike, a thrill-seeker eager to impress, Ethan, her reserved but supportive boyfriend, and Lucy, a skeptic who tags along out of loyalty and curiosity. Armed with cameras, flashlights, and a few rudimentary ghost hunting tools, they set out to document what lies within. The group arrives at sunset. The air grows colder as they approach the manor, and the forest seems unnaturally silent. The house looms ahead, its windows like black eyes staring into their souls. The front door creaks open with an almost welcoming groan as if the house had been expecting them. Inside, the atmosphere is oppressive. Dust blankets the floor, and the faint scent of mildew permeates the air. The walls are adorned with faded wallpaper peeling away to reveal jagged cracks beneath. Kara narrates for her camera, her voice steady but tinged with nervous excitement. They move room to room, discovering remnants of a life long forgotten: a shattered porcelain doll in the parlor, an overturned rocking chair in the corner, and family portraits with faces blurred or scratched out. In the dining room, an eerie chill makes Lucy pause. Her breath fogs, though the air outside had been warm. The group stumbles upon an upstairs nursery. The room is eerily intact, as though waiting for its occupant to return. A broken mobile dangles from the ceiling, spinning without wind. On the walls, crude childlike drawings are etched directly into the plaster images of a girl surrounded by shadowy figures, her face frozen in a scream but with no mouth to express it. A sudden noise startles them, a soft, muffled cry, like that of a child, drifting from somewhere below. Kara's excitement grows, but Lucy is visibly uneasy. Ethan tries to brush it off as the wind, but the sound persists, leading them to the basement. The basement is a stark contrast to the rest of the house: cleaner, more preserved, as if it had been untouched by time. At its center is a chest, partially open. Inside, they find an old phonograph and a collection of records. Curious, Kara places a record on the turntable and cranks the handle. As the needle touches the surface, an ear-splitting scream fills the room. It's not just a sound, it's a visceral, almost physical assault. The group clutches their ears, yet the scream seems to penetrate their very bones. Suddenly, the scream stops, and the room plunges into silence, but the record continues to spin. The door slams shut. Lights flicker, revealing distorted shadows moving across the walls. A young girl's apparition appears briefly, her hollow eyes staring at them before vanishing. Kara finds a diary beneath the chest. The faded writing reveals the tragic story of Annabelle Grace, a mute girl who lived in the manor. Her entries are sparse but heartbreaking, recounting the torment she endured at the hands of her guardian, who saw her as an embarrassment. The final pages describe a horrific night when her guardian locked her in a soundproof room to silence her forever. Her voiceless screams were never heard, but her anguish seeped into the very walls of the manor, creating a haunting that would last for generations. The house begins to change around them. Doors no longer lead to the same rooms. Hallways stretch endlessly, and the sobbing intensifies, mingling with faint whispers that call their names. The group begins to fracture under the strain. Ethan sees shadowy figures stalking him in the corners of his vision. Lucy feels an icy hand clutch her shoulder when no one is near. Mike becomes fixated on a mirror that shows reflections of events that haven't yet happened, each one more horrifying than the last. Desperate to escape, they realize the only way out is to confront Annabelle's spirit and set her free. They decipher the diary's clues, leading them back to the phonograph. Kara hesitates but plays the final record. The house erupts into chaos. The walls bleed, shadows writhe, and the air fills with Annabelle's voiceless scream. The group witnesses the replay of her final moments, a young girl clawing at a locked door, her silent anguish consuming the room. Ethan succumbs to the horror, disappearing into the darkness as if swallowed by the house itself. The remaining three try to reach Annabelle's spirit. Kara pleads with her, promising to share her story and end her suffering. The ghost hesitates, her hollow eyes flickering with faint recognition. With one final, deafening scream, Annabelle vanishes, and the house begins to collapse. Kara, Lucy, and Mike barely escape as the manor implodes, leaving behind only rubble and silence. As they drive away, Kara reviews her footage. Her hands tremble as she watches the final clip, the reflection of Annabelle in the backseat window, her mouth still sealed, her scream still unheard. In the town of Blackridge, nestled at the edge of a dark forest, legends about an abandoned manor have grown over generations. Children scare one another with tales of blood-curdling screams, while elders warn against even looking at the house for too long. They say Blackridge Manor is cursed, a place where despair lingers like a shadow, and where those who enter are never the same. Kara, an aspiring ghost hunter, sees the manor as her ticket to success. "This isn't just another haunted house," she tells her friends. "This is the real deal. It's going to make us famous." She recruits Mike, whose love for danger outweighs his caution, Ethan, her boyfriend and quiet moral compass, and Lucy, the skeptic whose blunt wit keeps everyone grounded. The journey to the manor begins under an ominous twilight. As they approach, the air grows heavier, and the forest falls silent. When the manor comes into view, its presence feels almost alive, looming with its broken windows and sagging roof like a beast watching its prey. The group hesitates, but Kara pushes forward, her camera capturing every step. The inside of the house is worse than they expected. The walls are cracked, the air is thick with decay, and the faint sound of scurrying hints at unseen creatures in the shadows. Dust-covered relics of the past lie scattered, wilted flowers in a vase, a shattered teacup on a table, and a clock stopped at midnight. Ethan notices something odd: all the mirrors are shattered, as if someone or something despised seeing their own reflection. The first hour is uneventful but unsettling. They document strange cold spots, flickering lights, and faint creaks, all of which Lucy dismisses as the natural decay of an old building. But things take a turn when Kara finds an old photograph in the parlor. It shows a family: a stern man, a timid woman, and a little girl with blank eyes and no mouth, as if it had been erased. The group begins to hear whispers, faint at first, then louder as they move toward the nursery. Inside, the room is unnervingly preserved. A mobile above the crib spins lazily, though no wind stirs. The wallpaper is faded but still depicts scenes of children playing, their faces smudged and unrecognizable. Drawings carved into the walls tell a darker story: a child trapped in a room surrounded by towering, faceless figures. A sudden sound pierces the air, a soft cry that grows louder as they follow it to the basement. The stairs creak underfoot, and the air grows colder with every step. In the dim light, they find an old chest. Kara hesitates before opening it, revealing a phonograph and several records. Each is labeled with a single word: anguish, silence, screams. Curiosity overcomes fear, and Kara plays the first record. The sound starts softly, like wind through trees, but soon builds into an agonizing scream that reverberates through the room. It's more than a sound, it's a physical force that seems to rattle their very bones. The scream cuts off abruptly, leaving a silence so profound it feels deafening. The door slams shut, and the basement plunges into darkness. Shapes begin to emerge from the shadows, figures with hollow eyes and twisted limbs. One steps forward, a girl no older than 10, her face expressionless but her presence suffocating. She points to the chest, and inside, they find a diary belonging to Annabelle Grace. Through fragmented entries, they learn Annabelle was a mute child who lived in the manor over a century ago. Her father, furious at her inability to speak, subjected her to cruel punishments. On a stormy night, he locked her in a soundproof room, silencing her forever. The diary ends abruptly, but the house seems to finish her story. Her anguish remains, imprinted into its walls. The group's terror grows as the house begins to change around them. Hallways twist and stretch, doors open to unfamiliar places, and the whispers grow louder, now calling their names. Each of them is haunted in different ways. Ethan sees shadowy figures mimicking his every move. Mike becomes transfixed by a mirror that shows horrifying visions of the group's potential deaths. Lucy hears Annabelle's voice, a voice she logically knows the girl could never have had, taunting her skepticism. When Kara plays another record, the house erupts into chaos. The walls bleed, objects levitate, and the air is filled with Annabelle's silent screams. In the chaos, Ethan is pulled into the shadows, vanishing as if swallowed by the house itself. The others are left in shock but press on, desperate to end the nightmare. The final record reveals the truth: Annabelle's spirit is bound to the house by the agony of her death. To set her free, they must recreate the night she died. In the attic, they find the soundproof room where she took her last breath. The walls are covered in claw marks, and the air is so cold their breath forms clouds. Annabelle's ghost appears, her hollow eyes filled with sorrow. Kara, trembling, speaks directly to her. "We're here to help you," she says. "Your story won't be forgotten." The ghost hesitates, then steps closer, her expression softening. But the house resists their efforts to leave. It shakes violently, and the shadows grow more aggressive. Mike is dragged into the darkness, leaving Kara and Lucy to fend for themselves. They barely escape as the house collapses behind them, crumbling into dust. As they drive away, Kara reviews her footage. The final moments of her recording send chills down her spine. Annabelle's reflection in the car window, her expression unchanged, her presence eternal. The end.